The school superintendent is the lone finalist for the job of leading San Angelo ISD. He is Whitehouse ISD Superintendent Dr. Christopher Moran, a 32-year veteran educator, now making what he calls a bittersweet move to the Concho Valley in West Texas.
Leaving Whitehouse will not be easy.
Long before Dr. Christopher Moran was in charge of the district, he was a Whitehouse ISD teacher and basketball coach, embarking on a career in education.
I have nearly 20 years invested in Whitehouse ISD, and as a student, they invested in me from second grade through graduation.
A city and district that have played significant roles in Moran's life and career, making for a difficult decision when a job opportunity was brought to his attention 6 hours away in San Angelo.
So through discussions with people that I know, it really came my way. I wasn't out looking, but we're thankful for the opportunity.
Moran has served as superintendent in Whitehouse since 2016, a job that followed his first superintendent job in Brownsboro, which brought him back to East Texas after serving as principal of a high school in Houston. A dream to come back home that came true.
The question I've been asked is, why would you leave your family, your hometown? And my simple answer to that is, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what it was built for. And we live this life once. This is an adventure. It's a great opportunity to join a wonderful community and a wonderful school district, and I'm excited about that.
The move from Whitehouse to San Angelo was a step up as Moran moves to a district with about 3 times the number of students. Looking ahead, he says in the coming weeks, the Whitehouse School Board will have decisions to make concerning a transition of leadership.
Whitehouse ISD is bigger than one person, and it's about the whole community, and I am so thankful to have been a part of this community for so long.
And this afternoon, Whitehouse ISD released a statement saying, in part, "We are working with Dr. Moran to develop an interim plan until we hire a new superintendent, and the Board of Trustees is working on a framework to begin our search for his successor." And while the Moran family is already planning and packing, the San Angelo School Board will not officially vote on his appointment until they're out of a 21-day waiting period that's mandated by the state. If all goes as planned, he will start his new job January 1st.